We're in position number, yeah. Good evening and welcome to the Ashland Parks Commission regular business meeting of February 12th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Present.
Commissioner Weiner,
Present.
Commissioner Bachman,
Here.
Commissioner Adams,
Present.
Commissioner Lant.
Present.
Thank you. Let the record show we have the full commission here tonight. Approval of minutes. There aren't any minutes from our meetings to be approved tonight. Additions or deletions to the agenda. With unanimous consent from the commission, I would like to pull business item number 6 so that staff can add some detail that might make that easier for commissioners and the public to understand the vote. So without objection, number 6 has been pulled from the agenda. In the business, that's Roman numeral 8, number 6.
A question?
Yes.
So we're going to postpone that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clarification. We're going to postpone that till March. And that's the only change. Next up is public forum. I have a number of speakers. We're going to follow the protocol we've always used, which is come on up to this table and speak 2 at a time. Please identify yourself and where you live, but we don't need streets, just the city, please. And I'll start with Jane Ferguson and Ward Anderson. Please push the button on the microphone stand and you'll get a red light like mine.
Chair Bachman, how many minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Each speaker will have 3 minutes tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jane Ferguson, and I would like to tonight...
Jane, can you turn that on and get right up next to it? And then tell us where you live, please.
Yeah, again, Jane Ferguson. And tonight I would like to introduce our newly formed Hunter Park Tennis Association. We have over 80 members, and we have united to support tennis players who play on a regular basis and rely on Hunter Park courts for their health and well-being. We want to stress the importance of Hunter Park courts to continue to be prioritized for tennis. While we support pickleball players' perceived need for more courts, we do not want to add more competition for use at Hunter Park. As stated at the Ashland Parks Rec findings, before Lithia Park courts became pickleball only, commingling of the courts caused conflicts between the two groups. We have enough conflicts in the world, and we do not want to create any more conflicts. As you know, Lithia Park has 8 pickleball courts. Hunter Park has 7 only courts and 1 multi-purpose court. It seems equitable. However, tennis players also share Hunter Park courts with the high school tennis team, summer kids tennis camp, Big Al's, youth tennis tournaments, to mention a few. So there's a lot of carving being done over there. As Dan said at last Parks and Rec study session, carving up the Hunter courts with pickleball special events would definitely impact court availability for tennis players. I totally agree. Politics aside, tennis is a sport that I play at Hunter Park 4 or 5 times a week, if it's not covered in snow. It keeps me healthy, social, and brings nature and joy to my life. I love watching the local red-tailed hawk fly and perch on the tall Doug-fir tree. I love to see my friends and get some exercise. As I say, a set a day keeps the doctor away. Tennis is a game of love, and love is the best game in town. Please help us keep our Hunter Park tennis courts for tennis only. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson.
My name is Ward Anderson. I go by Andy. We sat in and watched your meeting last week, and I was really impressed with the staff work, and appreciate the fact that the commissioners are going to look at the pros report. See a balanced use of the parks throughout the city. I think that's the wise way to go, and I appreciate you guys having confidence in, it seems to me, a very competent staff. So I represent, one of the older members out there, and I'll be 84 in March. And this is the center of my life, and a lot of people that are older, that this is our activity, going out there socially. It's really important to us, and for our body, spirit, and mind. So I'd just like to remind you one little story. Back in, I think it was 2017, we'd been complaining to you, I don't think the same people, I don't know if any of you were on the board then, of the horrible condition of the tennis courts. We lost a couple players. They just disappeared into the cracks. We never found them. We were told there's no money to do that. You can't do that. We don't do it. So we said, well, we'll do it. So we got out there. Parks and Rec provided the supplies. We got out there on our hands and knees and patched the courts over 2 days. These were people 60, 70, and 80 years old. That's how much we care about it. So we hope we'll have prudent decisions on this. Like Jane said, we know pickleball is popular. We know that they have good reasons for wanting more. And we hope we can find a good, balanced, win-win situation for that. One thing that wasn't mentioned is this time of year when we play there, we're down there when the school gets out, elementary school, and that parking lot fills up completely. And we go around to tell everybody, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful backing in and out, because you little kids, they run all over the place. As you know, all you guys who are parents know what it's like. And so that's a huge issue. That's a huge issue in terms of this, is protecting the children of that school, even though they do not use the courts. They do use the courts in the sense that that parking area is filled up for the about, I don't know what, 40 minutes or so when the parents come and go. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Perfect
listening to us.
timing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you both for your testimony. And the next two folks are Luther Lyman and Corey Frank.
My name's Luther Lyman, go by Ludi. I lived in Mount Shasta for many years, and I would come up and play in Big Al's. And there was a lot of people, and at that time, I would rent a room, or my wife and I. And anyway, the number of people who come to Big Al's is quite good for the economy. Now, as far as the lines, a couple of years ago, they redid the courts at Hillman. Repaired them to tennis courts, and they put pickleball lines on them. And the tournament came, and the players who were sent over there to play came back and said they wouldn't play because the pickleball lines were so confusing in playing that it just wasn't fun. So that's one thing to take into consideration. So I really think keeping Big Al's as 8 courts as tennis is an important issue. Go ahead.
Thank you.
My name is Corey Frank, and I live here in Ashland. I, first of all, want to say thank you particularly to Lonnie and Rachel because we had to cancel our Ollie class due to the weather, and then they were very good about rescheduling it, and then a tree fell. So we're, I guess, out on that. I just have to say, I don't want there to be animosity between tennis and pickleball. That is not our intent. I really think we need to take a look at where we can put more pickleball courts, only because it is growing. We are working with the elementary schools. We are starting with Ashland High School, and we just keep adding numbers to pickleball. And again, I do think if we work together, we can find a spot somewhere to add just a few more courts and have tennis players want to play tennis, that's fine. But I think the reality is we're just adding and adding more pickleball players, younger and younger. We're going to be working with Walker School. We're working with the high schools. And while you may pull graphs and charts about how many courts in other places, you really need to take a look at just Ashland and our players for tennis and our players for pickleball, and then help us come up with a solution rather than all the blockades. Thank you.
Thank you both. And one more, John Spitzley.
Let's see, is this on? Yeah, it's on, I guess. My name's John Spitzley. I live in Ashland. I've been here for 5 years. I'm a reformed racquetball and tennis player, and have discovered pickleball since we moved to Ashland about 5 years ago. At the last study, I have attended the last APRC commissioners meeting a few weeks ago, and then watched the study session, the Zoom meeting. And I thought it was unfortunate that there was not an opportunity during the last study session for public comment. And I understand the difficulties in having public participation in a Zoom meeting. But I think there was a lot of things that were presented that might have been discussed more fully by the public if they had had an opportunity to discuss. And with respect to the whole issue of pickleball, I think there ought to be some study sessions where we could sit down and if the forum can be contrived in such a way that we actually discuss rather than you listen, we talk, then there's no room for interchange. I think it's very unfortunate. The other thing that I thought I would mention is I wanted to agree, well, there's a couple things. The number of people that are playing pickleball is growing rapidly. I played at the Y yesterday, and I have been playing at the Y for some period of time last year. This is the first time I've played this last year. I hardly recognized anybody that was there. And I know a lot of people that play pickleball. I used to see people all the time that I knew at the Y. There's a whole new class of people or a whole new generation of people of varying generations that are playing, and they're going to put pressure on the pickleball courts at Lithia when they become available again this summer. So I would urge you to take action, not to wait until you have people having to wait for an hour or not being able to play. So maybe we could talk about that, or you could talk about it. Take some action now, or while we still have time, that there's not a lot of people that are dissatisfied with the services that are provided. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public forum, and we'll now move on to the consent agenda, which has two items. Ashland Senior Advisory Committee minutes from 11/18/24 and the Recreation Division Advisory Committee minutes from 9/19/24. And I'll remind the commission and those watching that these are advisory committees. We weren't there. We don't approve them. We're simply acknowledging them by approving the consent agenda. So I'll ask for unanimous consent again. And without objection, it passes by unanimous consent, it being the consent agenda. And now on to item, Roman numeral item 7, Director's Report. No? Okay.
Good evening. For the record, Rocky Houston, Parks Director, Parks and Recreation Director. Sorry, Rachel. Snow. The good news, the sun's out, but tonight the wind's going to pick up and maybe some more snow. So we're continuing to watch and make sure that we've been very lucky so far and that very few assets have been hit. Unfortunately, our pickleball court has a tree still in it, but we are, other places we've been very fortunate and a lot more structures getting hit. This would be an abridged version because we have a robust engagement with two of our programs tonight. So for golf, just going to highlight one thing is that in January, we increased our number of rounds of golf and range ball sold over the previous year. And so we're continuing to see good growth there, and it's encouraging that there's a slight recovery occurring from the prior experiences. Senior services, we had 5 different events in January covering a variety of topics. We began a new drop-in line dancing that you can sign up for online, or you can call our number and we can work to get you set up and scheduled. Classes have been pretty robust in participation, and it's been a great experience there. The classes, of course, are at the Grove. In our dance studio or gym, there's a new stove that was put in by Foods and Friends to replace the stove as part of the agreement. That's part of their responsibility, and so that's an added cool little thing there that will continue to allow us to meet the local needs for, I call it Meals on Wheels, but I guess it's Foods and Friends here. I'll get acclimated eventually. Operationally, we had a community garden rebuilt at Scenic Park. Snow, cleanup. If you go around town, you're going to hear one thing. It's a little beaver, electronic, little chainsaws going as we're continuing to buck up and move stuff around all over town. Irrigation is working on that as well, and while they're still doing the seasonal work and getting things ready, they're doing things like repairing the Wagner Memorial Bench and continue to remove limbs at Briscoe and other trees prior to the snow event. So again, in some cases we're a little bit ahead of the snow, which helped reduce our damage. At Lithia, amazing is you can't see it out there, but we actually got all the leaves picked up before the snow fell. So that is one good thing. And we had a crew leader training by SAFE on PPE. So again, continue to make sure that we're recognizing and working with our staff on safety issues. For our East operations teams, they replaced an AC unit at the golf course out there at Oak Knoll. It's been a booger. That's the technical term. It's just been creating a lot of operational repair needs, and so it's good to see that get replaced. And we had some new ADA sinks installed at Garfield there in the restrooms. The coolest thing, and I got to sit in it once. They didn't let me drive it. They took the keys away, but we got a new electric van It goes about 94 miles on a single charge, so that's about a day and a half of running around town. And it's a great addition with all the racks and stuff. You know, it's little things like toilet paper. It works better if it's dry. You know, we had trucks before, so it's little things like this that will help us meet those janitorial needs better. As well as they were part of the fire suppression at the Grove, tested and replaced the air handling filters there. These are just a couple things, of course, of the multitude of things they're doing. East Park, we're continuing to watch, and it's a little hard to watch it right now, but we're trying to make sure that we're ahead of repairing that transition from a baseball to a soccer for field number 2. So we were working before the snow fell to get that all set up to where when the temperatures change and we start to get some germination, that we're able to get that up and running and to our service level this spring. Otherwise, we'll have to make that tough decision of, do we allow it to continue to get beat up or take it off longer and get that to work out right. And it's complex with the different types of dirt and sand and a lot of those things that has created that ongoing issue. And just getting people off of it, even when it was closed, we continue to have people just sort of drop in and have fun, which is great, but it doesn't help when we're trying to grow grass in the fall. And we planted a new dogwood tree and some I'm not going to say it right, rhizomes. Did I say it right, Justin? Oh, I mean, Commissioner Adams. They're at the Nature Center, so that'll be a nice, wonderful spring experience. Dogwoods blooming are a beautiful time in spring. It doesn't last long enough, though. You know, it's just a bit longer. Outer parks and trails teams, I'm really concerned about what the damage is going to be from the trees up in there. We've already seen some photos of some of the trees down across some of the bridges and other structures, so we know it's going to be a tremendous log out experience, but we've got a lot of hands to help us with that in the volunteer world. We repaired a road easement into the Siskiyou Mountain Park. It was something we got done last month. We continue to go all over removing hazard trees and removals and fuels reductions. We had a contract set up for Lithia there by the restroom, and that was cost less than we anticipated, which is unique in my world. And so we transitioned that crew to go over to the Liberty Street property and continue to do fuels reduction and remove dead trees and such there. So it's continue to make sure we're scrapping away every dollar we got to have added value. And the boulevards out here, you'll notice that we have transitioned the spot between this building and the Grove out there in the along the street and the boulevard or streetscaping, where we've transitioned. We planted some additional hedges, transitioned from a grass to a decomposed granite experience with some landscaping boulders. And so we've got that completed, and so that's now what it's going to be. We'll continue to cross our fingers that the trees that were starting to show signs from the extensive use and wear around there, that they'll return back. We have one that I think is a little tougher shape. And then they continue to move around and move stuff, boulders and chips for golf, as we're continuing to do some brushing and spiffing up out there to bring it up to our level of service standard. The pros planning side, my goal today, I'm going to announce it, got to talk to Rich, we're going to beat their number of survey respondents. They got 623, I believe is the number, 627 through their recent update of their strategic plan.
You're talking about Medford Parks and Rec, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and Rich Rosenthal. Okay, I just wanted to make sure people knew.
Thank you, Rachel. We've already have 378 respondents so far, and we still have another 4 weeks of it being open and out there. So everyone can go to our website, and right there at the front, there will be this little image, and you push that little button that says Take Survey, and it'll bring you straight to the survey. I was trying to get the little website, but every time I put it into the PowerPoint, it would change it into a different word, so it wouldn't give you the URL. But it's there. You'll start to see signs all over our parks with a little QR code that you can take a picture of and it'll bring you out to the survey. The survey is a little longer. It's every 10 years. So there's 44 questions and it takes a little bit of time, 30 to 45 minutes to complete it. We did make one error, is we had identified that we missed Garfield Park, and we caught it in one of the different questions, but it didn't get carried forward. So we do know that there's going to be an omission for one of our properties in regards to its condition, use levels, and things of that nature. So that is something we'll continue to work on and try to address as we move forward with the plan. We've got focus groups being scheduled this month, fingers crossed, in March. And those are going to be focused invitation for different groups like recreation. So we'll have court sport groups there. We'll have youth sports. We'll have other all groups coming together to focus on recreational activities and have some groups there and some breakout sessions. And that'll go across, I think we have 7 different setup of those being planned. Then we'll have our kickoff meeting, which will be our first sort of open house on April 8th. And I believe, we haven't confirmed the location, but it will probably be at the Senior Center, I think is where we're looking to have that, there at Hunter Park. And then we're working right now for setting up 3 neighborhood meetings. We'll have one for the north, one for the central, and one for the southern neighborhoods where we'll invite the community in to focus on the recreational needs, park experiences in those parts of town. And again, to get those focus groups on those areas. And then we'll continue to move forward. And as we get these identified and scheduled, they'll be on our webpage, and those will be there, as well as there'll be the press releases and other announcements out to our stakeholders that we've gathered so far to make everyone aware of those processes. Projects. So we are continuing to finalize our East Main Phase 1 documents. We're planning to get that done this spring so that we can get that out to bid and get construction done this year. I think that's Rick there with the beard. I'm thinking, I don't know, but it looks like he's a representative of Commissioner Lant is there in the Butler Perazzi Fountain back in the, appears I'm going to say 80s. I found this picture, I thought it was cool, so I put it up here today. It just had his spirit, so that's why that's my vision. So we are finalizing actually, I apologize, I forgot to save a document and close it out, this afternoon, and so I had to rebuild it, and I missed my error here, which is that we've had our first kickoff meeting with our consultant for our PSE construction documents, and we're working to have the 60% package here at the end of the month, early March, and then get that out to bid this spring. And the Hunter tennis courts, as we are scheduling, and it hasn't been scheduled yet, I didn't get that confirmed, when we'll be meeting with our consultant there for those construction documents. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to you, Chair, to move into business.
Any questions for Director Houston?
This is actually more of a brief comment. I completed my PROS survey this weekend. It took me an hour and 38 minutes, so not 30 to 45. Maybe I paid more attention than the average person. I guess I just want to sort of say out loud before we start getting data on it that I'm concerned about the survey. I'm concerned about how much time it takes, and that the fact of that time may exclude certain people from participating in it. I am not an expert in informatics or statistics, but that said, it is part of my education. And I'm also a little concerned about how kind of broad-ranging the survey is. Surveys like this, 44 questions, up to 14 sub-questions each. You kind of get so much stuff from it that it either ends up meaning nothing or that you can make it mean anything. And so I guess I just wanted to like put that out there in advance so that my concerns are not voiced in the context of liking or not liking what the survey might show. There's that old saying that that all statistics lie, but some are helpful. And I hope that this will be helpful. But having now completed it myself, I do have some concerns with it that I wanted to share to this commission and to the public who have been giving me similar feedback, that they're sort of like, what is this giant thing that's all over the place? So I just want to put that out there.
Right, and we've heard similar feedback in regards to the volume of it. And the bureaucratic response is it was 64. So we have pared it back. Not to say that that makes it any easier for any users. And this is just one data set. Sometimes I think people think that we take a survey and this is the end-all be-all data set that we were going to make all our decisions over the next 10 years on. And that's just not the case. Now, that being said, we want the best data to get input as possible. And so with our focus groups, with the input that we have through public comments and our open houses, all those elements, we're going to have another survey which will be smaller, which will be more focused on putting money to the ground sort of things, prioritization of things. And part of the mistake or the interest that I was trying to do was align our data with the statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. I'll get it right, SCORP, and the data they have. So we could compare some of those questions to that statewide data to see how we are in comparison to it versus how we are unique. Because they only bring data down to a county level or a region level. And so as such, trying to get some of those nuances there. As well as, especially in condition and how we're doing in some of those parks, sometimes your perspective of how well we're doing is the park that you visit, and that may not be how all of our properties are. And I think some of that stuff, you're right. Where are we visiting? Where are those? And the other thing that I was hoping to do is from that data is try to look at, so it seems like we don't have data counters that tell you how many users, but through that data, again, to tell us where we should be focusing some of our operational data as well. So all those. Sometimes, you get back, Super Bowl is this week, and you throw the long ball, and sometimes there's no one there to catch it. And that's valid feedback. So thank you.
Commissioner Long?
I wasn't planning on speaking about this, but since Commissioner Adams brought this up, I have a couple things I'd like to say. One is, I took the survey and I made a point of just seeing how quickly I could do it. You have to answer every question. It won't let you continue without answering. But it took me an hour, and I think it might be more accurate to say it'll take around an hour to do it, rather than saying 30 minutes, which I just can't imagine anybody doing in 30 minutes. But I do want to take issue with one thing that Commissioner Adams said, which kind of inferred that maybe because it was so overwhelming that it would have no meaning. And I think that every person who completes it, they put down some kind of a data point. And I think that all those data points are valuable. Yes, it could be skewed. It could be certain kind of people that are only ones that answer it. There's all kinds of ways it could be skewed, but that's oftentimes true of any survey. And I just think that at this point, I'm going to take it seriously, and I'm going to listen to the results and understand that there were a person that spent an hour to get that data point. And I want to encourage everybody to take the time. It's important. Ashland citizens have a history of really caring about the parks, and I think they care enough about the parks to spend an hour or more doing it. Yes, in retrospect, I think that we would have gotten more data if it was easier to get through, but this is what we have. And I say to our citizens, through the years, you put all kinds of time into our parks. We're asking again for you to put time into our parks. Thank you.
Commissioner Weiner.
Yeah, I also just wanted to point out that I think it was a fantastic move to finally bring the button to get to the survey up to the front. It was tough to find even when I knew where it was when I was trying to help folks find it. So kudos for that. I think that's going to actually help completion because people can find it now. And I think that a survey like this is going to give us some more questions rather than answers, right? So the stuff we get back then begets the next line of questioning and the next line of questioning so we can really dive in and get the answers we want. So thanks.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you. That concludes the director's report. Next up is business, Roman numeral 8. And the first item there is the golf annual report. Information only, no action. And it looks like Deputy Director Dials might have something to do with that. No, it's going to be Kevin Caldwell and sorry, I was looking at the wrong item. And Brian Weaver, our golf manager.
Good evening.
Greetings.
For the record, Kevin Caldwell, Park Superintendent.
Brian Weaver, Golf Course Manager.
So we got kind of a 50,000-foot level review of what's been happening at Oak Knoll. Formally want to introduce Brian Weaver, our new golf manager, who is also a PGA pro. He started in September of last year as the golf course manager. We did kind of reorganize our scenario. We did reorganize how we're structured out there at golf. So Brian is now in charge of the pro shop as well as golf operations and golf maintenance. So that's kind of a streamlined measure that we took. As far as staffing levels, we continue to staff the pro shop with Brian and 2 seasonal employees. So that's what we're looking at in the pro shop. And then as on the maintenance side, we still have 2 full-time employees to tackle all the maintenance. Moving on. We do have a slide that says questions with pretty pictures, and that's at the end. All right, now Brian's up.
And my old eyes are supposed to see that, right?
Just scoot over.
Thank you.
I won't bite you.
Brian, if you could use one of the microphones, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just move this one. So business plan in progress is getting pretty close to being able to move that up the chain for the first round on the business plan. It is more of an operations plan, but want to make sure that it is in line with the pros plan. So it's coming along nicely, and I'm excited to integrate things together. So golf lessons are most definitely available. We will offer group lessons, individual lessons. We will do some clinics and junior golf, mostly geared toward beginner friendly for the women golfer, the men, the juniors, and these kind of things. But very family friendly and beginner friendly is kind of where we're gearing most of the instructional programs. Staff handbook, we've also actually already pretty well rolled that one out. I've got one version over to Kevin yet, not quite done with it, but that one's pretty close as well. We are marketing the golf course and outside events and those kind of things, not just golf. That's the biggest thing that I've kind of tried to really instill is we're not just a golf course. We're a meeting place. We're an event place. We have a lot more to offer than just golf as such. Excuse me. That, in my short 5 months there, we've already hosted a concert, a couple cross-country runs, and actually another concert here just a couple of weeks ago down at the practice facilities that was very, very well attended considering the weather in February. So I was excited to see that. excited about the grill. The grill's been closed now for, I think it's been about 3 years or close to it. We're working diligently to get the grill open back up. I had a couple of meetings today with some food purveyors and those kind of things. The menu is getting very, very close to done. I'm hoping that we can do sort of the soft opening in early, middle of March and should be able to full service the golfer when the snow melts and the sun comes out. So pleasure to meet y'all. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Moving on, more on the maintenance side. I think you've heard this before, but we did complete a new secondary potable irrigation connection to help conserve water when we're using potable water. So that's a huge plus and cost savings. We did have our kickoff meeting for the water storage feasibility study, where we're going to look at what we have for water rights. Do we have enough? If we have surplus, can we store it on site? Where could we store it on site? What does that look like? Structures, and ultimately give us a cost estimate what that might cost us in the future. Because our issue with irrigation is not necessarily quantity of water, it's storage of that water. We continue to improve with our maintenance team and Brian's help, playing conditions in the course. Working with, Brian's brought in some agronomy experts.
Nice.
Pulled that one off.
You can teach it a little bit.
to help us implement some of the best industry practices. Driving range has a host of improvements that are happened, including new hitting mats, new range balls, and a new grass tee area, which we hope to open this late spring, early summer. We just need the snow to go away. In addition to that, the grass tee area, we also have a new grass sod nursery so that we can use that to repair the greens once we can get back on the course.
I'm very excited for this slide. The 44% year to date is very promising. I'm excited to see the second half of that fiscal year that we're in now. Very, very excited to see the future. We have a lot of opportunity. We've got some challenges in front of us, but we've also got a lot of great opportunity. And the team that I inherited, I'm excited about. So I think everybody is, my team is very cohesive in working in a common direction to make sure that we make each day just a little bit better than the last. And if we can do that and create that constant and never-ending improvement sort of atmosphere, then I think we've really got a good, strong foothold to be able to move forward. So I'm excited about it. That slide's very exciting to me. So.
Pain is almost over. Okay, now it's over. Any questions for us?
Commissioner Adams.
It's going to be a little bit of an out-of-the-box question, but I just found myself thinking about it when I was prepping for the meeting. This is probably mostly a question for you, Brian, though, Kevin, you're welcome to jump in, too. If you could wave a magic wand at our golf course that was capable of many things but not creating more water in our area, what would you do with that magic wand? Whether it has to do with golf or other uses of the ground. Just curious. You have a small staff right now, and so I'm not going to hold you to any of these dreams. But I'm just curious. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that we need to take advantage of is, so we've got a great facility and everything else, but what we need to do is learn how to constantly and consistently be able to put out a product. And I think that's where we've sort of missed it in the past, is the product, the golf course from the conditioning standpoint, the service levels in the golf shop. I've seen a lot of inconsistency even in my short time. And the biggest thing that I want to do and make sure that the grill starts out this way is to make sure that we're always delivering not only a quality product, but a consistent product so that guest knows what they are here to expect. But if we get down to the magic wand, I can't wait to see the agronomic conditions, good job, continue to improve. Thank you.
I was wondering, could you go back to the last slide that had the graph on it? So what exactly are we looking at there that you were so excited about?
Well, sorry.
I think it's all revenue,
It's all revenue?
Yes, sir.
all golf revenue, yeah.
So all revenue by month?
Yep, exactly, starting in July to
Okay.
current.
And we haven't raised the rates or anything, the golf rates out there, right, over the last year?
We did have some small increases last year, and we anticipate looking at rates again this year.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure I knew what I was looking at. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Gardner, anybody else have a question for the gentleman? Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and let's hope the snow melts so golfers can get back out there.
See you on the course.
And that takes us to item 2 under business, which is the Recreation Division Annual Report, and this time it is Deputy Director Dials.
Thank you. I am Rachel Dials, and I'm the Deputy Director for Parks and Recreation. And tonight, I'm really excited to be here with the Recreation Division team. And I'm going to start us off, but I'm going to turn it over to our experts. And what we're going to do tonight is do a quick 2024 year in review. The team tonight, Suleiman Shelton, who's our volunteer and event manager, Kirsten Kame, who's our environmental education manager, and Lonnie Flora, our recreation manager, are going to give you the highlights from the past year. We won't be able to cover everything, but we hope the snapshot just helps you understand what this division provides to the Ashland community. If you have questions, if you can hold them to the end so we can get through, that would be great. This is what we do in recreation. Sometimes I don't think it's quantifiable. We connect and engage with the community. We provide community spaces, both indoor and outdoor. We connect through environmental education. We seek out partnerships, and partnerships are integral. Specifically, we see what happened during COVID and budgets being reduced, and having partnerships helps us increase our resources and availability for programs and events. We provide seasonal job opportunities that engage both our youth and adults, and we're providing volunteer opportunities to connect the community to public places. So that's what we do. We do have a small but mighty team in recreation, in the recreation division. But the staff that you see here tonight is not just the only staff we have. We have 2 more who aren't here. And I want to make sure that I call them out. Jen Aguayo, who's our Nature Center coordinator, who literally held down the Nature Center for a year and a half until we hired a manager. And then Amber Schroy, who's our administrative assistant, who covers front office at both the Grove and the Nature Center. And prior to that, we haven't had a full-time staff member in that admin assistant position since April of 2020. So that's a really important position. And as a reminder, Kirsten Kame, our environmental education manager, was just hired 2 months ago. So she is diving right in to the programs. And so next slide. So 2024 was this is it. 2024 was our year of events. This was the year that the Alcohol and Parks Ordinance was changed and the new policy was created. We had 4 events in 2024 that served alcohol in the park, and all of those events were held in Lithia Park. We got great feedback. We're hoping to push forward again into 2025 with more events, and hopefully some more of those events will serve alcohol. We had 47. One of the things we do in recreation is we have 47 special event applications that the public fills out when they want to apply for an event. We had 47 applications that were submitted. Of those, 30 were approved in various park locations. We sponsor and help run the 4th of July run, which is 475 people. We had 2 Summer Sound concerts last summer in June and July, and those were hosted by Epic Ashland, which is a new 501c3 in the community that helped sponsor and coordinate the event with Parks and Recreation in the city. And we had over 1,800 people at each of those events last summer. Also, Rogue World Music Festival. That's happened for the last 8 years on Memorial Day weekend in Lithia Park, and they had over 1,500 people in attendance for that. Rogue World Music has been a staple, and they've offered diverse music, diverse programming throughout the year, and cultural programs. And they announced this year that they are taking a pause and a step back with their organization. So they are going to be taking a break this year from sponsoring the Rogue World Music Festival, but we're hoping that they come back in 2026 stronger. Another thing we do in recreation, we connect and engage. We have various facility rentals available for the community. We have 10 outside recreation providers that offer recreational activities in the Grove. And this is separate from our regular classes and programs that happen. These folks rent our facility and offer programs to the community outside of what we already do. As you know, in the Grove building, we've had a wonderful department within the city that's been with us in the Grove for the past year, the city finance department and the utility billing. And they just recently moved out in December and to their own building. And so we now have another programming space available again. So we're just kind of ramping that up, and we're looking forward to being able to offer more classes in that facility this year. We work with 17 for ball field and court reservations. We work with 17 different youth and adult sports organizations that reserve sports courts, soccer fields, baseball fields, and the softball fields at both Lithia, Hunter, and North Mountain Park. The Grove and the Nature Center are our quote-unquote hubs, community hubs. We take phone calls and emails in both of those facilities regarding a multitude of parks and recreation related issues. In January of 2024, we implemented, through our project manager and recreation manager, Lonnie Flora, we implemented the Smart Rec registration program. And this program makes it easier for all of our customers to register themselves for programs, pay for classes, and create their own user accounts. And it's a very user-friendly program for our staff to use. And so far, over the last year, we feel like we've really benefited from that program. And then the last thing that I will do before I turn it over to Suleiman is the city website. In May of this last year, the Recreation Division and the Senior Services Division led the effort to transition Parks and Recreation Department over to the new City Civic Plus website, and that was a huge endeavor by all the departments in the city. It took a crazy amount of time, but it was worth it. We've got a great city website. There's still a lot of work to do, but we take it one day and one step at a time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Suleiman Shelton, our volunteer and event manager.
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Suleiman Shelton, Volunteer and Special Event Manager. And I get the pleasure of going over kind of a brief overview of the Volunteer in Parks program from 2024. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about some of our events, specifically from the lens of the volunteer program, and a couple of our newer programs, again, from the volunteer lens. I guess that's close enough. You can hear me. So 2024 was another kind of amazing year, just reflecting on the contributions that this community gives to this organization consistently year after year. Again, numbers is only one way to quantify that, but we like to quantify things. So this year, 12,300 hours given through our parks, events, programs, and that does include some of our community partners as well. Examples of that, Rogue Valley Mountain Bike Association, Ashland Woodlands and Trails Association, Food and Friends. So that number does encompass some of those partner organizations that we work closely with, and our volunteers are very linked. And then 957 volunteers participated in our programs and contributed to this organization last year. Here's some of our wonderful volunteers from the Lithia Artisans Market, and they're part of our Adopt a Park program on the Kaye. And they come out, 3-4 times a year and help us keep that looking beautiful. They're a hoot to work with. But those numbers are kind of nebulous unless we compare them. So here's just the last 2 years, 24 and 23. You'll see slight increase both in total hours and total volunteers. I'll speak a bit about the hours in a moment, but just in terms of total volunteers, looking back over the 2 years, kind of the biggest jump would be at North Mountain Park, and that kind of reflects some of our service learning programs, so school groups coming and those kids helping us remove invasives and then receiving some education out of that as well. Other than that, the numbers looked, across the board fairly similar in terms of involvement, but that area, North Mountain Park, did receive a bump, and that's kind of where that number, that discrepancy lies. Good discrepancy. So even though we talked, I was looking at those two numbers, they weren't that different, 12,000, 12,300, but that doesn't really explain kind of how each year is very different, right? And that's based on staffing, it's based on our priorities, it's based on our programming. So 2 big changes this year. One that reduced hours on the volunteer side, at least, and one that increased hours. The biggest reduction was at with senior services, and that's because we had some additional temporary staffing, which is great. And so we were able to provide those services through that staffing. We still have some tremendous support being offered from volunteers at the front office. Really critical volunteer support, but that reduction is linked to that staffing. And then on the increasing side, park maintenance, another kind of big pool that encompasses a lot of things. And part of those hours are better tracking from our partners, like RVMBA, AWTA. They both contributed pretty significantly to that 750 additional hours. And then also just increases in Japanese garden, for example, another kind of tick up in volunteer involvement that's reflected there kind of in helping us maintain that space. So yeah, you can see kind of the 2 biggest changes. And of course, there's smaller ones across all of our programs, right? Just based on, but the numbers are not nearly as significant. So I thought I'd point out the biggest 2. And some of our wonderful volunteers that work there. All of those volunteers would fit into that kind of park maintenance bucket. Graffiti removal, blackberry removal, trail work, all of that. Community events. Deputy Director Dials mentioned we called it the year of events last year because boy, they just kept coming and it was a lot of fun. And so volunteers are really critical to us being able to hold these community events. I mean, an event like the Bear Creek Salmon Festival, for example, needs 40, 50 volunteers to be able to pull that off. Bike Swap, 30, 40 volunteers. Rogue War Music Festival, another 40. I mean, it really is a volunteer-led effort. And then an addition this year in 2024 were Japanese garden cultural events, which we were able to hold at the Japanese Garden. And those events are also really volunteer-led, whether that's members of partner organizations like Southern Oregon Japanese Association, or whether that's some of our volunteers there at the garden who are showing up, teaching how to fold origami, showing maybe their own bonsai collection, all sorts of great things like that. So we were able to hold those 5 cultural events really because of our wonderful partners and our volunteers. I want to briefly touch on another one of our programs in recreation, which volunteers play a really critical role in, and this is linked to the Bike Swap, and that's our bike program, which is a partnership with RVTD, Rogue Valley Transportation District, and we're calling it Pedal Power. That's, I think, a new thing in 2024. And this is a number of facets to this program. It's volunteer-led bike maintenance work parties, which we have 2 a week at the Grove, And it's Tuesday nights and it's Thursday mornings for those who are interested. And those bikes are fixed up and sold at the bike swap or donated through local aid organizations. And the bike swap is in turn funding the program for youth bike safety education. And so this is a program that had been going and really had to take a break during the pandemic. 145 students educated last year at Bellevue and Hellman. And looking forward, we're trying to grow that. We're trying to get it. If you look at the the hopes of pedal power, it's trying to get into every elementary school in Ashland. And we do that through the funds raised through the bike swap. We are able to hire instructors to go to those schools. We're also trying to demo programs where we have PE teachers who are able to kind of borrow bikes and able to run their own curriculum that way. So, and then there's some numbers there from the previous. That was 2024's bike swap. We had over 400 people in the door, which is a pretty significant jump actually from 2023. We're very excited. Continue to grow that event to celebrate all things bikes. And then we raised $6,000. Tremendously more than that in sales, but that's our kind of what we took home for the program. The last program I want to touch on briefly, again, just from the volunteer side, I'm sure you're very familiar with David's Chair and the exciting work being done there. But again, a program that is going to be supported through volunteers. And we were able to train 5 volunteers, 1 per day of the week, who are able to take reservations on those specific days. And they've been trained on how to check the chair out and how to demonstrate how to use it and how to explain the route and safety and all of that. So we're very thankful to those volunteers. You'll be hearing more in the near future about kind of the plans for this spring. I'm not going to go into that now, but those volunteers are ready to go. And we're very thankful to them for enabling this program to come to Ashland and come to Lithia Park. So with that, I believe I'm going to close the volunteer report and hand it over to Kirsten.
Hello, I'm Kirsten Kame, and got introduced briefly at the last meeting. I'm the new Environmental Education Program Manager, and I'm very new, so less than 2 months, and so you're probably wondering, what is she going to have to say about 2024? Well, I have this amazing team that I'm a part of, and I have been able to scavenge lots of information from them, and so I'm going to do my best to present it. And honestly, it's been a really good practice because it has really helped me to get an idea of what has been done in the past and how things have changed over time a little bit. So this first slide here, community program, so it's a big part of the environmental education program, where we teach we have a lot of different classes that are taught through the program. Some of them are taught by volunteers, some of them are taught by community members, business members, people who are part of the community who just want to teach a class in something and provide information and also maybe advertise their business. There are programs that are taught by partners, outdoor partners that are have their own organizations that come into the park and teach classes through their own volunteers. So it's a complex net of things, the community programs, and these are just a sampling of some of the things that have been taught in the past. Not all of them were taught last year, and that's something that I'm hoping that will bring more of these back. You know, we haven't really had, not just someone since 2023, there hasn't been anybody in my position, but there also hasn't been much happening since COVID. So it's kind of been a period of time that we're going to have to kind of build back up again. And I just wanted to make a comment that, you know, some people might be asking, what does this have to do with environmental education? Well, a lot of these things, environmental education, sometimes people might think environmental education is basically science, natural history, but actually environmental education is a much bigger topic, and it has a social aspect, it has a humanities aspect. I know the humanities aspect really helps people connect to nature, and it has a science aspect. So it's, you know, knowledge, as well as sensitivity, as well as being motivated to be active in the community for a cause, to help your environment, to better your environment. So there's a lot of things that fall under environmental education. Hopefully that will work. Okay, so one of the programs that's really been popular is our birding programs, and we have a lot of help with those. We have a couple of partners that really help with that. The Rogue Valley Audubon Society, yeah, Rogue Valley Audubon Society. They do a lot with us. They help us with some of our feeder watch programs, and many of them teach classes. They clean out. They sometimes give us money in order to help us with bird feed, because we go through a lot of bird seed. And I mean, I'm talking trash can fill of, monthly of bird seed. It's a lot of bird seed. And they help us with our bird day. And so we have a huge resource there, and they're very energetic and they're very focused. And so birding is one of those things that I hope to, obviously keep going and to increase as well. I hope we're going to have a really great bird day this year. The Feeder Watch program is just one part of the bird, classes that we've had. But the Feeder Watch program is part of a bigger thing through Cornell University. And all the data that we get is fed into the Cornell University's database. And so it's a really great way to connect with the bigger picture. So people that go, the volunteers come on a Friday or a Saturday every other week, and they observe birds at the feeders. And they mark down the numbers of birds, the numbers of species, and that data gets put into the national database. And I just put a couple of the rarest birds that come usually once a year, usually same time of year. And those are the two woodpeckers, the sapsucker, the red-breasted sapsucker, the downy woodpecker, and the sharp-shinned hawk. And then, of course, our red-winged blackbird, which is sort of ubiquitous, but a wonderful bird. It has a great song, and it's so easy to identify that, kids love it. They just love the fact that they can always see a red-winged blackbird. Another aspect of our program is our garden. So as you all know, the North Mountain Nature Center and Park have a huge surrounding garden area. There are themed gardens, so some of them are heirloom gardens featuring heirloom plants. Some of them are more drought, featuring drought-tolerant native plants. So there's a whole variety of different gardens at the park, and they're well-loved, well-used. Garden tours, we offer garden tours, and a lot of people just really enjoy the meditative quality of being able to sit in a garden and enjoy it and watch the pollinators. The community gardens, these are four gardens. Remember the Scenic Way, Clay Street, Garden Way, and Ashland Creek. And those 4 gardens are gardens where people sign up for being able to use the garden, and then they have a plot in the garden that is theirs to garden in for the year or longer if they can continue on in that garden space. And they're very enthusiastic. As you can see, they put in a lot of hours. There's a lot of gardeners working in them. They presented an open house last year in May, so that was really nice to be able to let the community in and see what's going on there. And there's a huge waiting list, so it's very popular. And the Arbor Day tree planting happens every year. Last year, planted 4 large ponderosa pines with 30 volunteers, and I'm assuming that we're going to need even more trees planted after, what's been happening, not just with the snow, but in general, climate change is affecting trees. It's affecting their ability to survive. So we always need trees planted. So it's great that we have so many people that are enthusiastic about doing that. The Salmon Festival, of course, huge festival, was brought back this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was down for like maybe 3 or 4 years. Yeah, 3 or 4 years. And it had a very enthusiastic reception. People were very excited to see it come back, and we hope to even grow it more next year. There were about 1,000 participants based on packets and things that were handed out to people, so there could have even been more because people are coming in from all different directions. Volunteer hours for prep and during the event, and then I just put a sampling of our many partners that help us with that event as well. And then service learning, which Suleiman already went over a little bit. You know, it's part learning, part service. And these are just the numbers. We had the coordinator and seasonal staff put in led 190 students through those programs. And then Salmon Watch, which is one of our really big partners for service learning, brought another 193 students in through their programs. So that's a lot of students getting to learn and do service in the park. Instructors, 50 hours, and instructors in facilities and grounds, 145 hours for, that we still consider in that service learning portion, even though they're not students necessarily. That's it, that's the last one. So I'm gonna hand it over to Lonnie. I'll stay up here.
Thanks for the support. All right, hello, Lonnie Flora, Recreation Manager, and I'm gonna try to get us across the finish line of this portion of the report. I oversee a handful of things, including our seasonal recreation facilities, programming, general programming at the Grove, and many other aspects throughout our park system. Starting with our ice rink, I was going to just review some of the numbers of the current season, and these numbers are actually approximate through January of this year. And we've had a really great season. The weather's been very cooperative. We haven't had a lot of warm days where ice is melting and we've had to close. And we've already seen up to, we're probably over now 20,000 admissions for this season. Season revenue creeping up above 112,000 for the season. And the total number of programmed hours so far is 564 hours that we've been open to the public. Some of the reasons for our success this season would be one, the Smart Rec implementation and some of the improved capacity that we have to serve the customers through Smart Rec, and that has been both with the point of sale and when people show up to the rink, and just the ability to speed through people through the check-in process, get them their skates, get them out on the ice and enjoying things. We've had also just online registrations, the ability to take private lesson registration online, which is new to us this year, and also selling a virtual punch card. We call it a multi-pass. We can also sell those online and be able to track people's admissions with the punch cards without a physical punch card for them to lose or get ruined by whatever form of water that we're using for recreation. So we've had a number of events this season at the ice rink, one being our probably most popular First Frost, where we have figure skating and DJ and just a really fun night for the whole community. We had 332 people admitted for that evening. It was just a 4-hour span of time. We also have a night where we have the school district staff come out and skate, where we had 50 people show up for that. The Southern Oregon Adult Hockey Association has a 3-day adult 3-on-3 hockey tournament at our rink. They sold out. The association sold out. 60 people total. 18 of those people did travel in from out of the area and stay in town. And one of our other programs that is an ongoing once a week program, but we did also have a special event in January, which is called All In. It's an adapted inclusive skating program. At that event, we had 59 people. We were trying to keep it limited to about 60, just to kind of make sure things didn't get too out of control, and we had a really good turnout there. Another thing I'd like to highlight about the ice rink, and also will explain at the pool, is with such a short amount of time to serve the community at these facilities, we have a pretty developed array of programs that are available to people. We do provide beginning skating, figure skating, and youth hockey lessons. One of our popular programs year to year is the school group field trips, where classrooms can sign up, bring their, teachers bring their classes, sometimes multiple classes, to the rink during the school day to enjoy the ice rink. We do have hockey programs, and those hockey programs are fairly developed, where we do have adult programs where they can show up, play pickup games on the ice, but also just family-friendly hockey, stick and puck, where mom and dad and children can get out on the ice at the same time and just kind of shoot around without, pressure of anyone else going out there and knocking them over. On our rec skate programming, we have Frozen Tots, which is a slower paced skating experience for younger kids who may be more intimidated with the larger crowds. As I mentioned before, we have the all-in adapted skating programs. We have student discount night. Monday and Wednesday evenings, we have a cheap skate discount rental skate night. So we're getting a lot of people out and diversifying the ways that we make our skating available. So again, I think the ice rink is a really great example of how both parks and recreation comes together to create a really amazing facility that, really makes Ashland a destination in the winter. When a lot of places don't, people are cowering inside, we have people outdoors, skating, maybe heading up to the mountain to go skiing too. So next, with the pool, this last season, we totaled over 10,000 admissions for the season. You'll see there the revenue was creeping up towards 50,000, and I should mention that this is for the public swimming season, which we open in early June and close late August, maybe early September. This doesn't include the off-season school groups or masters swimmers. And again, with Smart Rec being implemented, we did have a lot of increases in numbers. Swim lessons, we had 357 registrations, which is far beyond what we've ever done in a season before. We had 51 private lessons on top of that. Again, the development of our programs, we have a number of different types of lap swim available, open lap swim, but also senior discounted lap swims. Some are gentle, slower pace, some are more regular lap swim for the older population. Water aerobics is another regular program. We have a water polo class where it starts out with an hour of instruction and then goes into another hour and a half of regular water polo play. And one of the pictures here, you may be able to tell, it's actually a mix of youth and adults participating at the same time, which is kind of a cool deal where, and it is monitored by the water polo club people volunteering. And we do also have the all-in adapted swimming programs once a week, including one event. And that is picking up popularity to have that, to offer those experiences to the public. And, even though it is a pretty small pool built in 1984 for Ashland at that time, we are doing our best to keep cobbling it together, keep serving the community with all these different programs. And it really relies upon the staff that we hire on every season. And we have about 20 to 25 seasonal employees, and these include instructors. We have staff that we bring on for supervisory roles, and many of these staff that we do hire on, this is their first employment experience. We are providing certifications in both lifeguarding and swim lesson instruction with our certifying agencies. I will train and certify, so I keep my abilities to get them trained and run these places safely. We have also just really detailed customer service training, and really to point out that these are our staff on the front lines. This is the face of the city of Ashland of what, when people come to our facilities, these are the people that they interact with day in and day out, and they do a wonderful job. And I could go on about, all the great words that I've heard from the community about them, and also the great experiences that they've relayed to me about how they interact with the community and how fulfilled they are at their job to come and be able to work with students, learning how to swim or teaching them how to skate. And so it's a really positive thing to be a part of. And I know there are a handful of names out there too that have started their work experience with us and still hold their career with the city of Ashland. They have continued on. And so moving on, I wanted to go in just a little bit further about the implementation of SmartRec, and this connects a lot to all of our other programs and that we're hosting in the Grove and throughout the park system and the Senior Center at the Nature Center. We have a lot of improved online registration capabilities with this system. There is an online store that functions pretty much like any other online store would, Amazon for checking out, being able to click and select your activities, check out online. The system also gives us point of sale operations at our recreational facilities, but has also been used at the Nature Center for merchandise and other applications. We've been able to take private lessons online, which we hadn't been able to do before and was really kind of a headache to do. This has made it a lot easier. Again, I explained the virtual punch card with the multi-passes, and that people online can manage their own account. They set up their online account. They can include their children, anybody in their household, select their activities, and be able to just do a better job of getting engaged with us, and we're doing a better job of connecting with them through that. In 2024, we've had over now 1,400 client accounts, which is total households that have been registered onto our SmartRec system. We did implement this system in January of 2024, and to this point, about 2,166 people that have engaged through that system as well. Ultimately, it's really helping us to improve offering a diverse lineup of programs, and keeping with our goals to provide more equitable access to everything that we do, and really be inclusive to everybody and their needs, and that's what we aspire to. Finally, just wanted to mention how important, again, partnerships are in our programming, and was just going to outline a few of the categories of partners that we do have in advertising partners, programming partners, and service partners. I have a few logos here. This is by no means the expansive list of the groups that we work with. An advertising partner is basically a partnering organization that we will advertise for in our play guide and social media and other marketing avenues, and then they in turn advertise for us. A good example of that would be the What to Do in Southern Oregon. We're advertising their publication in our play guide, and then they're putting out more timely advertisements of all the programs that we have upcoming so that people are aware of what we have. Mount Ashland is another one of our up-and-coming advertising partners to get more information out up at the mountain. Programming partners such as the Ashland Tennis and Fitness Club, also the Autism Society and Bridging Communities, which are very crucial partners in offering those all-in adapted programs and also adapted socials. They work with us to basically be the experts on the ground that are actually delivering the goods in our programs. And then finally, service partners. I think a good example of that is the Lions Club that sets up throughout the week at the ice rink, sets up their concessions and sells hot chocolate and coffee. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to purchase all that, all those materials, and it really improves the experience at the ice rink. It helps their goals and mission. It really is a win-win for everyone. So just kind of a really broad overview of the different partnerships that we have. And with that, we can take questions, and hopefully it's for everyone else.
Chair Bachman, I know that was a lot, and I appreciate, I think, in the Recreation Division, we do a lot, and it's nice to be able to report back to the commission, to yourselves and the community on how, what we did and how we did it in 2024. So I appreciate that.
Tremendous amount of information, and I think it's very important to hear from folks doing the work. And thank you very much, all of you, for presenting tonight. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Adams.
I'll just say briefly, this setting, we've got all our decorum and we sit behind our microphones and listen to you guys talk. And, I just want to acknowledge what a celebration this is, hearing about the events in our parks, our volunteers, education, recreation. I mean, it's amazing the work you guys do and the work that our volunteers do and all the people who visit our parks and avail themselves of the program. I mean, even just the online registration. I mean, what a win for our department. So I'm at the risk of breaking decorum. I'm at least going to give you guys a round of applause. So, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you all very much. It was so thorough, we don't have a lot of questions. Okay, then we'll move right along to number 3, which is an action item. And that's Calle Guanajuato lease agreements. And I think we're back to Deputy Director Dials.
All right. Okay, here we go again. I'm Rachel Dials, Deputy Director. And now we're talking about the Calle Guanajuato lease agreements. Hope I didn't butcher that too much. So each year, restaurants adjacent to the Calle and the Lithia Artisans Market can request rental space for seating and artisan booth space. If you didn't know, the Calle is a part of Lithia Park, and the Parks and Rec Department oversees the contracting and leasing agreements for that facility. Restaurants are charged for a 5 or 7 day per week. Restaurants are charged a fee for 5 or 7 day rental of the Calle on their selected season of operation. The Lithia Artisans Market is charged for 2 days per week charge. In 2023, the commission approved a new 3-year fee schedule. This current year that we're in is the last of the 3-year cycle. The fees for this year, basically the 3-year cycle was for the artisans to increase the first year and not the second or third, and for the restaurants to increase 9% over the 3 years. So for this year, the artisans are paying 79 cents per square foot per month. The restaurants are paying $1.30 for 7 day a week operation for 7 day a week service per month per square foot, and the other part of the restaurant, so the 5 day a week service, is 81 cents per square foot per month for the operation. The revenue estimates for the 8 to 9.5 month season is around $55,000 to $60,000. For the shorter season, like a 2.5 month season, that was between $8,000 and $10,000, depending on how many restaurants participate in that. This is a draft boundary map. It was also included in your packet, and this is a map of the rental spaces for the Kaye. This is generally where each of the restaurants will have their seating located for the 2025 season. The red spaces depict restaurant spaces, and the purple spaces depict artisan spaces, and the blue are shared spaces. I do want to give a quick shout out to Jamie Blankenship from GIS, who did help in putting this map together. All restaurants that are depicted on the map and the ones in your packet, everyone completed a site plan, everyone filled out a request. And I was able to accommodate most of the requests. The next map depicts the front of Lithia Park. The blue box spaces show where the artisans set up on the front lawn. When the COVID-19 pandemic began in 2020, with approval from the Parks Commission, the Lithia Artisans Market spread into the park, into the front of Lithia Park. This shift gave restaurants more flexibility in spreading out. And since 2020, the commission has continued to approve use of the front of the park for the Lithia Artisans Market. So we're continuing to ask for that. The season of operation. Over the years, the season of operation for the Lithia Artisans Market and the restaurants has increased. The current policy, under the current Kaye policy, it states that the default season of operation is Memorial Day through Labor Day. That's the default. But since the reconstruction of the Kaye around 2014, the restaurants are interested in using the Kaye for longer periods of time. And I'm asking for similar options again this year for what was approved last year. So my last two slides are the requested action to move forward with the lease agreements, asking for a separate motion for each of the actions, approval on the Kaye Guanajuato boundary map, and approval on the season of operation, which is those 3 bullets there. And then moving to approve the Artisans Market use of the front of the park and approving the 9 requests listed on the staff report. I am happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. So first, let's ask our clarifying questions before we move into motions and deliberation. Anybody questions? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you. So I just have one, it's kind of a concern on the artisans in the front of Lithia Park. And the locations, I don't know if you want to pull that slide back up, but the locations that you have shown are approximate locations.
Approximate.
And I just have a little bit of a problem. There tends to be a couple vendors that set up right at the very entrance to the park, kind of like blocking the entrance to the park. And, you know, I just think that should be monitored. It creates some congestion, and I think people miss the fact that tourists miss the fact that that's the entrance to the park. And I don't know, it just seems like they should be moved around so that the entrance to the park is free and open. And I think there's space available to do that.
Sure.
It's just a comment.
What I hear you saying is there's a buffer on the entrance? Sorry, Commissioner Gardner, you're looking for potentially a buffer along that main entrance there, where are the entrance like 10 feet on either side of that pathway?
Like if you look at that line that's on the right-hand side there, that's the main trail entrance. So you cross I guess it's Winburn Way there, from the plaza. You know, it's just that if there could be a buffer there where they didn't set up right in front where the walkway is and the entrance to the park.
Sure, I can work with the artisans on that, no problem.
Great. That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, no, go ahead.
Isn't really a question, but it's not really going to be part of the discussion. Because we had already decided on our rates, which was a really good thing, because that gave 3 years of continuity and a surety to our tenants. And that's really a good thing. But next year, that won't be the case. And so this is not going to be, next year is not going to be as simple as this year because of that. And next year we'll need more information about what our costs are. Because again, as I've said many times in the past, this is very different from almost every other thing we do as a park system, because we are basically renting our space to businesses. And if our rates are significantly lower than what the rates are for that other people in town are charging, then we basically are subsidizing the restaurant owners here. So we'll need more information. I think this is fine for this go around, but I just wanted to point that out so we could be ready for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we have 4 motions. I think it is a good idea to do them separately. And the first one would be to approve the map. So could I have a motion, please?
Sorry. I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. There's actually, sorry if I can just interject, there's actually only 1, 2, if you look under move to approve, there's 4 motions. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move to approve the 2025 Kaya Guanajuato map.
And a second?
Second.
Commissioner Adams, would you like to speak to your motion?
Other than to say, I think it brings an incredible energy to the downtown area, and it's an incredibly valuable asset to the community. While it may seem as though it's eventually subsidizing in some ways, I do think it's worth looking at. But I think it's an incredible value to the community as a whole, and I look forward to continuing to support that.
Thank you, Commissioner Weiner and Commissioner Adams. Nope. Okay.
Love the Kaye. That's it.
Roll call vote, please. Oh, Commissioner Long.
I just want to point out that we had a request for a change, maybe a change, but at least a clarification in the configuration, keeping things 10 feet from each side of the entryway to Lithia Park, and that is not, the map doesn't, you could interpret, I think, either way, that the map does already show that, or you could interpret that it doesn't. So I'm just wondering whether that's, if that's understood, if that's a problem, or whether we ought to have that in the motion.
Would that relate to the motion under question or the third motion around the approval of the Lithia Artisans Market in the front of the park?
I think that could be clarified in the third motion, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Thank you, Commissioner Adams. So this is just simply the actual Guanajuato street, Calle being a street. Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
And the second motion, I don't think we need to read the whole thing. I'm just going to say that we can refer to this document, but it's about a move to approve an 8-month season, March 10th, and then also a 9.5-month season. So we're approving the seasons as specified in the packet. So someone could make that motion. Commissioner Adams.
I move to approve the seasons as outlined in the packet and on the slide in front of us.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Weiner, thank you. If you'd like to speak to that. Okay. Anybody else? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann.
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
And now we are to the third item, which gets us back to Commissioner Lant's point. So I'll ask, would you like to make a motion, Commissioner Lant? Just to be sure that your concern is in there.
I'd like to approve the Lithia Artisan Market use of the front of Lithia Park as listed in the staff presentation, with the clarification that booths would be kept a minimum of 10 feet from both sides of the entryway to Lithia Park.
Second?
Well, second.
Commissioner Gardner, thank you. And you'd like to speak to that, Commissioner Lant? Any more? No? And Commissioner Gardner?
No.
Anybody else? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann.
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
And the fourth motion is about approving 9 requests listed in the staff report for Calle Guanajuato. That one's could just be complete. Commissioner Adams.
I move to approve the 9 requests listed in the staff report for Calle Guanajuato for the 2025 season.
And a second, Commissioner Lant. Speak to it?
Nope.
Nope. Anybody else? Okay, roll call vote.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lant.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Before we leave this, I want to point out something. I wish I had noticed this before we made our motion, but we made our motion about the map. What we approved was a Calle Guanajuato map. We did not approve, I mean, you could infer, but we did not approve a entrance to Lithia Park map. There's 2 maps there. So
In this third, I think the third item covers the map.
You're just approving their use of the front of the park.
The grass area.
Mm-hmm.
That's
With them keeping a 10-foot buffer on
Wait,
each side.
one at a time.
Okay.
Commissioner Lant, are you?
Yeah.
And,
satisfied.
okay, thank you. Okay, we're moving on. That concludes that item. Thank you, Deputy Director Dials. To the Trail Advisory Committee appointments, and I'm going to talk to that one. Those of you following let
Thank you.
Director Houston introduce this item.
Yes, thank you. In front of us is agenda item 8.4, the Trails Advisory Committee appointments. In a land far, far off and away, back in September, a whole year ago, it feels like, we formed an official Trails Advisory Committee, went through a robust engagement process, received 20 interested parties, went through interviewing 18 of those through a 3-person panel, providing the same questions to all of those interested parties. Through that process, Chair Bachmann developed the list that's in the staff report of recommended appointees. For background, we initially had set up a 5-member voting member committee that had a pedestrian, a cyclist, 2 at-large members, and an ADA representative. In addition, there are non-voting members that include a commission representative, a council representative, as well as I always get this wrong, but a trails committee? No, forest lands committee member as well, as how the process goes and how our trail system works throughout the different management zones, especially in the watershed. Through this process, we identified a lot of great candidates. There's a term that Chair Bachman said over and over again, which is, I can never say it right, but we had so many great people to choose from.
An embarrassment of riches.
Yes, an embarrassment of riches, and it was true. We got a lot of interested parties and a lot of hopefully other members of our community that we can work with in other ways to better our park system. With that, the recommendation came to do 2 things. One is look at revision of the formation document or motion you guys made in September and move from 5 members to 7. That would provide 2 pedestrian, 2 cyclists, 2 at-large, and 1 accessibility representative. I think I do have the draft motion. The representatives are outlined in the staff report. So a pedestrian representative would be Adrian Bender for a 2-year term to provide a staggered attendance and I can't think of that continuity of potential future change, and a 4-year term for Josh Cott. For cyclists, Yu Kuwabara, I think I got it right. It seems like the more I practice, the worse it gets. So thank you for a 2-year term, and Ethan Brout as a 4-year term. Our accessibility representative would be Torsten Heckel, who has a lot of experience in trail design, trail construction, a lot of those principles in regards to moving forward, ensuring that we have universally accessible and outright ADA compliant opportunities for trails. And then our at-large member would be, for a 2-year term, would be Steph Suffinger. Maybe you've heard that name before, who's an avid walker, hiker, advocating for easy and accessible trails for dog walkers and other individuals in the community. And then Brooke Hansen would be the 4-year at-large. I think the list shows a broad array of users, experiences, engagement with lots of different community partners, and some membership from the prior ad hoc committee that we'd had for the prior years. So I think there's, again, some of that continuity that will help us and help you in the advisement of this program. So the motion would be first motion would be to amend the formation of the Trails Advisory Committee to include 7 members. And the second would be to, upon conversation, to appoint these 7 members and get going. But I'm sure there's conversation before we get to that.
Clarifying questions.
Wouldn't we actually be consenting to the commission chair's appointments? My understanding is that the chair makes the appointments and we then consent to that.
Correct. So there are two motions. One is we made this, I suggested, and I would like to have the support of the commission to increase the number of voting members from 5 to 7, which makes it consistent with our 2 other advisory committees. Then I have recommended these appointments, and so the second motion would be to consent or not with my appointments. Any other questions for either of us?
I was going to make a motion.
Oh, okay. Anybody have any more questions? Okay. Commissioner Adams.
I move to amend the formation of the Trails Advisory Committee to include 7 members. with one additional cyclist and pedestrian representative.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Commissioner Long? Yes, okay. Any discussion about that?
I just agree that it makes sense to
Okay.
have 7 instead of 5, easier to get a quorum, and it matches with the rest of our advisory committee, so I just think it makes good sense.
Anyone else? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And second motion, Commissioner Adams?
I move to consent to the appointment of the 7 members by the chair as outlined in our report.
Thank you. And a second on that one. Commissioner Weiner? Thank you. Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank Director Houston and Chair Bachman for their work in this. Like they said, there were a lot of good applicants. I had the privilege to look at the list of people who are interested, and it was a heck of a list. And I know you guys spent a lot of time and due diligence reviewing those applications, interviewing the people who are interested, and I just want to express appreciation to both of you. And then if anybody at home is listening, and especially those highly qualified people who are not selected, appreciation to all of those who were, and the other 11 to 13 people who applied and interviewed for these positions. We had an embarrassment of riches, I think is the right way to put it.
Thank you. And I want to just remind everybody that Commissioner Adams is the liaison to this advisory committee, which is why I asked him to review the applications.
Correct.
Commissioner Long?
Staff's proposed motion included how the staggering and et cetera. Is that important that we include that?
Yeah.
I think it would be captured because I said as outlined in the report.
Right,
which
as long as we
included does it not include the 2 versus 7? I thought that was in.
It does. It mentions here that the first 4 are 4 years and the last
In the
3
presentation and the staff report.
And we had that presentation, but in the packet itself, it outlines. Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
And just before we go on to vote, the reason for this 2 different terms in this particular case is we're starting this advisory committee, restarting this. And so we have 7 people filling slots that we need to stagger the terms. And so roughly half are going to be appointed for 4 years, and the other, 4 for 4 years and 3 for 2 years. And that's the reason for it. The next time this is addressed by the commission, it will be either 4 or 3 members. Positions will once again have this sort of a robust process to be sure we're allowing anybody not on the committee to apply to be on the committee. So individuals going forward will need to reapply for their positions when their terms expire. That's the general approach for all our committees going forward. Any questions about that piece? Okay. Now, I've lost my way, but I think we're ready for a vote. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And we'll move on to Roman numeral 8, number 5, park classifications, and that's an action item as well.
Thank you, Chair. I believe it was in September where we first started the conversation of developing levels of service and looking at park classifications. At our study session, we reviewed the 6, I got to keep remembering, 6, actually we initially identified 5 classifications. Through the conversation we had, we added an additional classification. The classifications are going to be utilized for a couple different things. From a park planning perspective, they allow us to define a level of service in regards to acres per 1,000 residents. It also, in regards to amenities and development and those standards for these properties, it provides us some baselines for that. Why is that important? It allows us to be more planful as we're looking at the different properties and developing them according to their classification, as well as compare our park system and how we are unique, but again, how that compares from a level of service to other communities similar to us and dissimilar from that sort of level of service of acreage per 1,000 residents. Those categories are regional, which is similar to Lithia Park, very large, a big draw, does a lot of amazing things, very unique in its offering. A community park, which is designed to be a 3-mile service radius. So they're more developed destinations, so they have parking, they have restrooms, a lot of times sports fields, sometimes they are a natural resource destination park. You can think of, like, I'll say the Greenway Trail several times, but again, that could be considered that. Neighborhood parks, which are a close to home opportunity for parks, so they're designed to be walkable. Quarter mile is typically the sort of that service radius. They don't typically have as many amenities such as parking off street or restrooms. They have sometimes unique recreational amenities, but are designed for that smaller use and that neighborhood experience. Ability to run home real quick if you need food or you need to go to the bathroom, those sort of things. Pocket parks are really small, under 2 acres or less, potentially under an acre for a lot of the property profiles we have, like Triangle Park, where a lot of times they don't have as many amenities. It's more of a little zen moment in the neighborhood. Sometimes they're developed, sometimes with a little bit, sometimes they're just green space. Trails, which are linear routes throughout existing properties, or like the Bear Creek Greenway itself, which becomes that linear asset. A nature park or open space, which is a passive recreation site, usually not developed and utilized primarily for those habitat, natural resource, other buffer needs, view shed, much like Siskiyou Mountain. And then a special use park, which is it's the kitchen sink in that it's usually a special in that it serves one user group, kind of doesn't fit into the other categories like the skate park, and as such, that's a category that kind of allows that specialist. The golf course could be considered one of those special use parks as well. And so these are the 6 parkland classifications. The importance of this is it allows us to then continue to move forward with our pros plan and be timely in regards to our recommendations and our assessment through this planning process. And I have a proposed motion and action or direction pending further discussion.
We'll start with clarifying questions, and then we'll get to your suggested motions. Commissioner Gardner?
Just you said 6 classifications. I think you have 7 now.
You are correct. Math is not my subject tonight.
And then one other, so we had discussed at the study session which parks actually fit into those groups, but we're not approving that tonight. We're just approving the groups.
Correct, sir. Commissioner Gardner, we put those out there because if you're like me, I like to have something to like compare it to and look at our system and see, oh, this is how these classifications fit. That makes sense. And so the idea is to set up our actual classification system, and then we would come back at a later date to have a further discussion on the actual linkage of classification to property or parcels.
Got it. Thanks.
I'm looking at the red microphone, so that's kind of a new cue for me. Okay. That's a good clarification. This is just the classification system, and parks will come and go within those classifications in some sense. Commissioner Lott?
Well, I'd like to make a motion, but I'd like to, beforehand, have a couple things I wanted to say. One is that in the staff report, it talks about walking distance, and it says generally within 3/4 of a mile. And I'm hoping that can be corrected to Ashland's comp plan 1/4 mile. I think that this classification system is going to be really helpful. It's logical for the most part. I just have one suggestion for a change, and I'm going to put this in a motion. That change is that pocket parks would be 1 acre or less rather than 2 acres or less. That actually will even help with some of the issues that Commissioner Gardner and I brought up. It would actually put a couple that were listed as pocket parks, would make them more easily fit into the neighborhood parks. So I'd like to go ahead and move that we adopt the parks classifications, classifications outlined in the agenda brief for parking planning purposes, with the following change: that the pocket parks be 1 acre, the change be from 2 acres to 1 acre. Further, direct staff to develop a policy on park classifications once the new department policy format is adopted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Gardner. Anything else to say?
I think we covered it. Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lant.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Thank you. That would bring us to 6, which we've pulled to move to March, so we're down to our last business item, number 7, which is the department budget recommendation for action.
Thank you, Chair. I will note that the agenda brief has some numbers in it, and we have updated those downward a bit. So the numbers that we show here in our presentation tonight will be a little bit different for our operations budget, just to let everyone know that minor change. And of a side note, reviewing prior practice and the lift that this is right now is, in 2 years, we may be proposing to have this recommendation at our March meeting versus our February meeting, if the timeline remains the same, to ensure that what we're presenting to you is fully vetted through the city manager's office and finance office. That way, if the numbers don't change potentially as it gets into the final budget, and to make sure that that timing is set up. That being said, thank you for your patience as we work through this. So as you may recall, we got a instruction for our budget this year to sort of hold a base flat line for our budget. So what our previous biennial budget is kind of what we were working on. Any addition to that, we had to work through a justification process to then present to the city manager and the finance after it's recommended here by the Parks Commission. The baseline budget that we received was $14,005,502 for our park operations. On the screen, you'll see our current biennial budget, which was approved, $14,435,316, and by each of those program areas that we currently have and will continue to have in the next budget. So the black numbers with the green at the bottom is our current budget, and the proposed for the next biennium there in the blue and the purple. The FTE count is the proposed for the new budget. That's why they're blue. In a comparison is currently we have 35 positions filled. We have 2 additional positions that are unfilled that are in our operating budget, and we look to fill those 2 positions next biennium and add an additional 2 positions. As we talked about a bit in our study session and through our work session, is we're looking to align our operation activities in the operation budget in our programming, customer service elements in our others. As such, in our Parks Administration budget, our superintendent for park operations will be moved down into Parks Operations to align that. We're remaining having the deputy director and administration due to the role beyond just recreation currently for her duties. Open space would be, there's a reduction of 1 FTE because currently we have our volunteer coordinator in there, and they are more impactful for our whole operation system, so that position would be in our park operations. In our recreation programs, there would be the additional 1 FTE of a recreation coordinator that we had lost during COVID, and bringing that back to, again, to offset our use of seasonals and to continue to move and meet needs with the addition of Pioneer Hall and the Community Center coming on board, and those 2 robust seasonal sports would be a lot of that person's time, as well as those other fill-in for all the rest of the operations.
Let's stop here and see if there are questions. Commissioner Lunt, I think, has one.
I get why these numbers change, because you're not in control of the numbers. But what I don't understand is why the fiscal year 24-25, which is adopted, why that changes what I'm seeing up here versus what was sent out to us.
In regards to the 24-25, so
yeah, for what we received was the 24-25 adopted budget for operations was $14,719,000, and now you're presenting a number that's 300,000 less than that, and that's what I'm having trouble understanding.
And that's my error, in that I looked at our adopted budget for the previous fiscal year, and I transposed that number instead of the 14,435,000. In addition, when you look at the OpenGov adopted budget, there's 5 different budget numbers you can get to, and we're currently trying to work on, but the number that was in the resolution by council to be adopted was the 14,435,316. You can also, if you did look on that adopted budget on page 162, you'll see a number of 16,119,000 as our adopted budget. You'll see, if you add up all the programs, another number, 16,700,000. Because it appears that there's capital projects that get infused in those other different warrior reportings. And I have that question right now to finance to clarify. I know that the adopted number is the right number, but why are we presenting it a different way? And I think part of that is due to a previous city manager in regards to our PERS obligations and how that gets reported in different things. This 14,435,316 includes our PERS obligation as well. So, yes.
Thank you. You answered my question and then a whole lot more. to your peril, perhaps.
Yes. And that's, again, why as these have come out in the last 2 weeks, as we're trying to form our budget, we haven't had time to get all these answers, but still trying to hit the expectation of getting that recommendation tonight. That being said, if we don't make a recommendation tonight, we can still come back in 30 days before the city manager's official budget is presented, and then after our meeting would be, I assume, an acceptable non-action action.
So now I'm confused. So this is fluid. So what are we being asked to do? In other words,
so what, in essence, these are the things that we're asking for that are additions to the budget. Is when we bring on East Main as having 1 FTE added for 1 fiscal year, and those operational costs associated with East Main Community Park. with the addition of the community center, Pioneer Hall, and the other recreation programming, adding the recreational coordinator and those additional operational costs to operate those additional facilities. Adding one FTE that's currently primarily seasonal for the Boulevards program so that we have full-time staff managing that other portfolio of landscaping for city properties. And then for the senior center, adding administrative assistant to replace the seasonal employee we've had this year. And the last thing is looking to, for our ER&R, equipment repair and replacement program, is to start that transition of moving forward with those items, vehicles and equipment we acquired this biennium into that payment process so that we're preparing for the future. That is the difference between the 14 million and the 15.6. So that's, in essence, is I'm looking to get the adoption of the $15.6 million operation budget, pending those things. The things that are unknown that we don't know is additional changes to our budget from fleet in regards to repairs and those numbers. We don't know what's going to happen yet in regards to our class and compensation, in regards to what our employee costs are going to be. That could go up 1%, that could go up more than that percentage, in addition to the usual step rates and those things. And so those are those unknowns. However, through our revision from last Thursday to today, that's where that number went from 22.2 million to the $21.8 million. So it's going down, not up, but we don't know what the crystal ball. And as such, this is a recommendation to move forward into the city manager's citywide budgeting process.
So it sounds to me like, excuse me, what we're really doing is accepting a recommendation for staffing. And we're not clear yet what the numbers will be associated with that. So we're not approving a budget at all.
That is correct. And my understanding in prior years is that council is the entity that approves the budget. We are making a recommendation, and generally that recommendation is followed given that there's funding permitted.
And technically, it's the budget committee that approves it and the council adopts it. So we're not focused on the numbers yet, is my point.
Right.
And that what we really are concerned about is whether or not the commission supports that slide, which is a staffing recommendation. Does that make sense?
And to clarify, there's 4 people on here, but only 2 additions because we have those 2 vacant positions.
Right, I understand that. Okay, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. Just one small clarification. So when you say the Boulevards program, that actually includes more things than just the Boulevard, does it? Or is it just the Boulevard?
Correct.
Is it like everything else that you do for the city?
Yes, it's all non-park property. So it's the airport, it's street trees, it's
Briscoe School, stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yeah, hey, so I was trying to look at a couple of slides back when it showed the 425 and the 2627, and I'm trying, I suspect that there's a reason why the budget for, say, senior services and environmental education and so forth has gone down. I suspect those have been consumed in some other line item somewhere. I doubt we're planning on it, but maybe you could speak to that.
Yes, some of that is operational costs that are being moved into the park operations side versus they were divided out between the different programs in the past. What that will do for us in the future is help us when we get a cost recovery policy in front of and looking where our budgets and our programs will align more with what our cost recovery assessments will be for those revenues and expenses. And this is the moment where I should have had Brandon here to get down into the real details. But that is the primary reason for golf going down. Environmental education going down, I believe, is the same thing there. And I'm looking to Rachel to clarify these.
So the number for environmental education for FY 24-25, the difference doesn't look there's something not right about that number, and I don't know what that is without having to look closer.
Okay. It appears that we are preparing for March.
Yes, I think that's wise at this point, unless you absolutely need some sort of action tonight.
I don't believe procedurally
Okay.
that would impact our delivery of a draft.
Commissioner Adams?
I just had one other question. Can you help me understand the large reduction in the capital budget, that it went down by 11 million or 60% year to year?
Sure. So the last budget was an aspirational capital budget. We didn't have the funding for that. We only had 4 million in the bank, and it appeared that we adopted a capital budget that was a 6-year plan versus a 2-year actual budget. And as such, this year, this 6 million or this reduction is based off of that, as these are projects that we've got programmed funding that we anticipate actually completing in the next 2 years, such as in the current capital budget, we have the pool. We're still looking that to be out a couple more years because we're still not there yet. And there's items like that. We had the, and sometimes I think it's the matter of thinking something's going to take a short amount of time and then it takes a lot longer to do stuff, like with Butler Perazi and some of these other projects that are taking longer to get to the bid line. So I think that's the core thing. Is it appeared that our previous one wasn't what we actually thought we were going to get accomplished in that 2-year, but they were the projects that were a priority to move forward and make sure that we're. However, I was not here when that was approved, but that's my assessment of that sort of nuance between that reduction.
Commissioner Long?
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting what we've done is we took it from where it was aspirational. We had a number there and something we wanted to do. Now what we've done is we've changed it to a goal, and our goal is to find the money to do it. And I think that actually makes a lot of sense. It also, it makes our budget, it doesn't make our budget look inflated or in a way that can be used by people to talk about how we're, we have such a large budget or we're spending money in a way that we shouldn't be or whatever. So I'm very happy that the direction that we've taken. And I want to thank you, Director Houston, for helping take us down that road. I do have one other question, and that is, you showed us a slide, maybe your first slide, which showed, no, before that, no, that's the one. That is the one. So this is a baseline. So where is it? We're not using it. I mean, this isn't part of any numbers you showed after that. So what's going on? What does this number mean if we're not using it?
I think
This is the direction we're supposed to stay to. You'll notice that it's $400,000 less than what was adopted in the previous biennium. Through our previous sessions, I've been communicating that from a level of service from our operations side, we have 140,000 hours of work to be accomplished and only 43,000 hours of people to do it. So we 12 years ago had 52 FTE. We now have 35 FTE. So our system's grown by 25%. Our utilization or our resources have reduced by 36%. And as such, I'm coming in front of you saying that to meet our current baseline level of service and to continue to move in the areas, that's why we're making the justifications for these positions. Each one is vetted at a why. It's not a, gosh darn it, I feel. We're trying to articulate that we're bringing on these new assets and we need to be able to get them cleaned, pay for the electricity, the water, the sewer, the garbage, for those things. For that customer service experience that we looked at with the rink and with the swimming pool, having a full-time employee there managing those temporary employees and doing that versus utilizing our temporary employees to do that, again, to ensure that we're moving forward our mission, our values, to make sure we're in control of our customer service experience, are all those things. The boulevard there is just a transition from relying on a part-time or seasonal employee that's working full-time to just trying to balance that out to make sure that we're, again, in alignment there. And as the senior services shown, we're almost at 20,000 user occasions, which is up from 17,000 from the year before and as such. And we've demonstrated that having that temporary employee in there full-time is allowing us to meet more gross. Now, if it comes back and we don't have the money to do it, then that's where I'm showing you where we're going to have impacts for what we can do. Should we develop a new park if we don't have a person to maintain it? That's a big question that we come back and get policy discussion on. Maybe the answer is yes, but we're not doing other things other places. So it's that game where it's a balancing, and we're always going to be taking cuts from somewhere if we're going to grow somewhere else if we don't have additional resources.
So I want to repeat back what I think I'm understanding now, which is that number you just showed us, the lower $14 million number, was a target
Yes.
given to you by the finance department. And what you're arguing, and I'm agreeing with, is that to do what we want to do over the next 2 years, we need more, and it's reflected in the increase in the FTEs. So I think we're at the point now where we understand that we don't have the information necessary to approve a recommendation. I'll call it a recommendation. It's going forward to finance and eventually the budget committee and the council. But so I'm going to ask that we table this, and so I would love to have a motion to table this until March. But that's just my thinking right now.
Before I would support that, I have a question for staff. What would be helpful if you have it in hand from this body, if anything, as you move forward in the next month?
I'm thinking. I think if I have clarification of support of this direction, not as a decision, but that is as the things that we're asking for are supported in its thing, and then that would allow me to work with the city manager and with the finance department in regards to where our where we can go, and then that will allow me to come back if we aren't able to get the number we were put in front of you tonight of that 15.6 is what it is and what those impacts potentially would be at our study session and then in our March business meeting.
Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out, I think it's important that we, because we've discussed it enough, is that we support these items here moving forward. I think that, this gives direction to staff that if we support this, then the numbers are going to come together for us to approve the following month.
I think that was my leading question. I think we do need to take action here. I agree with the chair that we don't know the numbers. so we really can't do that. But I agree with Commissioner Gardner that we should give direction, and I think the direction could just be that we agree and support the budget requests that have been presented to us tonight.
So you want to formalize that as a motion?
Okay, that was the motion.
Is there a second? I want to be sure we're clear on it. So what the motion is that we
Approve and
so we
support.
direct staff to continue with this, no.
I think it's just simple that we approve and support the budget requests that have been presented to us tonight by staff.
Could even say budget request considerations. They're itemized there.
Okay. Let's restate it then.
Okay. I move that we support and approve the budget request considerations provided to us by staff in their presentation tonight.
Second.
Thank you. Anything else to say? Okay. Commissioner Weiner.
I will support this moving forward, but it feels to me as we discuss it, really what we should be doing, and I believe what this motion does, and so if it does not, please correct me, but gives staff leadership the direction to move forward and request a budget beyond what we believe that the finance committee is going to recommend, because we know that that's what it's going to take in order to deliver the service level that this community is demanding. And I think that it's important that the council and the finance department know that we are responding to the expectations of our community, and that in order to be able to deliver that level, it's going to cost more than it has thus far. And I think this motion gives you that support to be able to take that message to them with our strong request for such.
Thank you. No, I agree with that. Everything you said. Commissioner Adams, you have anything to say? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lund.
Yes.
All yes, motion passes.
Thank
you for that.
Any additional, that concludes our business. On to Roman numeral 9. Any other items from commissioners? Anything at all not related to the agenda?
Yeah, just very briefly, I think we set a record tonight in unanimous votes. I don't think we've ever made this many unanimous votes at a single meeting. So,
Well,
for what it's worth.
For what it's worth. Commissioner Gardner.
So, would you like any liaison reports, or
Yes, I would.
are you going to that, or?
It's just part of the saying. Yeah, it's a reminder, so thank you. If you have a liaison report, this is the time we like to hear it, yes.
So I just wanted to, I'll bring the commission and staff a little up to date. So I'm the liaison to the Ashland Parks Foundation. We have interesting discussion at our last meeting regarding the public art scheduled for Ashland Creek Park. Crystallizing Our Call, I believe, is the name. And that artist came to the foundation to, we haven't voted on it yet, but for us to sponsor that project. The Say Their Names Collective that was sponsoring it in the past is kind of dissolved. And I don't know if it'll come back to the commission at some point, but I wanted to kind of give you guys an update on that. It's it would be a big project for that park, and we're going to see how that aligns with what the mission of the foundation is in regards to supporting the Park Commission and Park Department on that project. So I wanted to update you on that. Just real quick on the Ashland Senior Advisory Committee. We used to have a city council liaison that would come talk to us, and the city council decided that they weren't going to sponsor any commissioners to or councilors to our projects, so we don't have that anymore. But we always have a robust discussion at those meetings. And I believe I missed the last public art meeting because I had a conflict, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that's going, but.
The Public Art Commission meeting is next, I think it's the 20th. It's
The 20th?
next week. I can send you an email with the date if you want. I got an email from Veronica.
So I need to get on her
Yeah.
email distribution list
Yeah.
then.
I'll get that info to you.
Great.
And
Okay.
we did move your name and contact information to them as well, so.
Yeah, so
But we'll
maybe-
we'll double check.
Okay.
I'll double check.
Great. That's all I have. Thanks.
I'll never get the name right, but it's the Wildland
Forest Lands Commission.
That's the one.
You'll get it.
No, I probably won't, but that's okay. I did go to a meeting, my first meeting with them last night, and they've done some fantastic work, and wanted to report back to you. So a lot of the burn piles on the west side of the watershed up to Felon Knee and sort of that whole huge area, they were able to get those piles burned down, a lot of fuels reduction done there. That's been completed and doing really well. The mountain park, the other one, this other one,
Siskiyou Mountain Park.
Siskiyou Mountain Park, that one. They still got a ton of piles there. They didn't get to burn those, and with this current weather pattern, it's going to be a bit. They're also looking at some perimeter. There's some grant funding and some Forest Service partnerships that can look at some interface for high-risk communities that could potentially do some significant fire fuels reduction in the perimeter around our park systems, be outside of our parks, but adjacent to, which would be a significant benefit. So they're doing some great work. Really, really impressed with the stuff that they've got going. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams? No? Turning off your light, okay.
Excuse me, Chair.
I just have one more comment on the Trails Advisory Commission. Now that we have approved 7 members, we have to meet. They have to meet. And so the path forward, and correct me if I'm get too far off the path here, Director Houston, is that staff will be in contact with those peoples. They'll be training them up on public meeting law and scheduling a meeting. And then the meeting will include electing, probably will begin by being led by staff, and then they will vote to place their leadership positions. And then a liaison will report back to us how that's going. So I just want to be sure that people that are listening that might be on this committee, that next step is that they'll be contacted by staff. Okay, anything else? In that case, we're to 10, which is upcoming meeting dates. The commission study session, our study session will be on next one will be March 5th here in person, 6 p.m. The Senior Advisory Committee meeting will be next one will be March 10th at the Senior Center at 3:30. We will have a regular business meeting back here on March 12th, and the Recreation Division Advisory Committee will meet March 20th at the cabin at 4 p.m. Got that right? Okay. In that case, we're at the end of the agenda and the meeting is adjourned.